If you're a competitive golfer or the parent of one and you're frustrated because the scores aren't dropping despite all the time, money, and effort you're putting in, this is for you. I'm Drew Hopper, board certified coach, Titleist Performance Institute certified expert, and I've observed and coached over 650 rounds of competitive golf. I can tell you 80% of golfers are wasting their time on the wrong things. Swing lessons every week, hundreds of balls on the range, new equipment every season, and the scores aren't moving. Today I'm going to break down the 3 highest ROI strategies that will actually transform your game, lower your scores, help you perform under pressure, and give you back your time and money. Let's get into it. 70 to 80% of your time or your kids' time spent on the range with full swing banging balls. Feels productive, but scoring doesn't improve. Full swing consistency is table stakes, not the differentiator. A new driver, new irons, new putter, swing lessons, green fees, tournaments. These aren't bad investments. They're just not the ROI multipliers. The real problem, zero investment in mental systems, minimal to no structured short game training. And by that, I mean 30 yards and in. Zero course management strategy. The result of this, 80% of golfers get stuck. They're not improving fast enough, not enjoying the game, and not competitive at the level they want to be. So let's talk about the illusion. A lot of times when I'm coaching, I'll be walking around the course and observing, and I end up interacting with parents or with other golfers. And what inevitably happens is if they don't play the way they hoped to play, they're going to go see their swing coach. That's the default response. Or sometimes I'm going to go buy a new club because I'm not hitting this club right. Again, those aren't necessarily wrong responses. I just don't know that they're fully optimized responses. And so what does your swing coach usually say? Well, usually, honestly, you're going to go hit the balls pretty well. And your swing coach is going to say something like, you just need to keep hitting more balls and it'll show up in the tournament. I'm going to challenge that. If you don't have a good mental game system, I don't believe that's accurate. It's not accurate because you're losing access to the best parts of your game because you're actually losing access to those parts of your brain that are responsible for providing those skills. The other part of this is if your strategic part of your game is not well thought out, you're probably flag hunting and missing on the short side as an example, or not positioning yourself, not choosing the right club optimally. And that puts more pressure on you. And so then this becomes a multiplier where you've had a frustrating round, you likely have some mental issues, mental game issues to work through, but also then because of that, you're likely then making even worse decisions because our prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for decision making, isn't accessible because you're angry, you're frustrated, you're flooded. So bottom line is if your mental game and your strategic game are under indexed, if you will, then new clubs or your swing coach, it really doesn't matter. You're never going to be able to access the best parts of your game without those variables addressed. So let's jump into it. All right, so I kind of foreshadowed in the last section, but let's jump into the 3 greatest opportunities now. The mental game, which Bob Rotella calls your 15th club. So let's just start by identifying that professional athletes, if you think about your favorite professional athlete, they have literally worked their life to program their identity and belief system to thrive in pressure moments. That's what our system does. And so we're programming your nervous system, your mind, and your identity. We're hardwiring it neurologically to perform in high-stake moments. This is critical. And so we use a program called Braver. I'll throw it up on the screen so you can look at it. We go much deeper one-on-one with our clients with this. We go out on the course where possible. We implement it. We also do a lot of this virtually, so it doesn't always have to be done in person. I've got clients in Canada, clients all over the world, so we can do this anywhere. Looking at that on your screen, what I'll say is it's very practical to start this with your pre-shot routine. And the first step is just deploy a breathing technique before, between shots, after shots, something like box breathing. So that's, you're going to inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Very simple. Or Dr. Huberman recently put out a technique where you do a full inhale and then another sharp inhale for what's like an overfill and then a slow exhale. So either of those would work. That's an example, and it's a great place to start with implementing a mental game because you're now down regulating your nervous system, and that's going to then allow you to maintain access to the best parts of your brain responsible for athletic performance. And so, if you have one takeaway from this today, it's to begin implementing breathing techniques to get back to baseline. That's why the B in Braver is baseline. We want to down regulate our nervous system. We want to maintain access so that all the things you have worked on, all those skills you developed with your swing coach, etc., those are now accessible. Whereas if you're angry, you're frustrated, you're in that upregulated nervous system state, unfortunately, those skills go away, right? We lose access to them. The great thing about this is you keep this forever. So once you build out this system, you own it for life. If you're 14 years old and you're listening to this, you're still going to have access to this at 24 or at 44. Then the other thing is this works in golf, but this also works in business. It also works in life. All right. Next, number 2 is short game mastery, and I mean 30 yards and in. So real talk, if you look at a pro and how good they are from 30 yards and in, and you look at the average competitive golfer, they're leaving 5 to 10 strokes around on the table, right? And so bottom line, you've got to become world class from 30 yards and in, right? Not good, world class. This is really where tournaments are won and lost. This is also the fastest path from a technical perspective to lowering your scores, and it's also efficient, right? Banging balls on the range for hours at full swing is tiring. Hitting shots from 30 yards and in is actually low effort physically. Now, it might be high effort mentally, but it's low effort physically. And so you can put a lot of time in. And you hear pros talk about this where they spend hours and hours and hours on their short game. But you don't see that in the average competitive golfer. And so you've got to find a way to optimize that mix in your practice where you're really indexing the short game. And so I think most people might be 80% range time, 20% short game time. It's fun banging balls, right? It's fun hitting big drivers. I get it. I really do. But if your goal is to lower scores and enjoy the game more, I hope you're listening. So maybe look at changing that mix to where you're 40% range time, 60% short game. And I can teach you those techniques, and those techniques, you're going to have to practice them though in order to keep them sharp. That's the one difference here between other things. You've got to really keep those skills sharp and practice and practice and practice. So if you're doing the 80-20, then you're not putting the time into it. It makes perfect sense combined with the poor mental game that it wouldn't be showing up in tournaments. And so think about changing that mix. Think about working with a short game specific coach. Nothing wrong with, again, swing coaches, but if they're not a short game guru, you might consider expanding your coaching stable, if you will, to include a short game guru. Last one, number 3, and this is a big one. It's huge, course management and strategy. So the problem here is a lot of golfers show up with minimal game plan, right? They're just kind of like picking a club. Last weekend, I coached a tournament and really, really impressive, huge teenager. And he wasn't my client. My client was who was paired with him, but the kid could hit the ball a country mile. But he didn't have a plan. Every hole was a driver, and more times than not, he got himself in trouble, and then he was frustrated and his scoring suffered, right? Whereas if you're coming to the course with a plan and you know shot by shot, hole by hole, exactly what you're going to do based on distance consideration, so how far you're hitting your clubs, as well as your distribution, as well as the geometry, how to optimize your positioning around the golf for scoring specifically, right? Every client of mine, we go through a hole by hole, shot by shot. We use the same software that Matt Fitzpatrick uses, and they have supreme confidence on hole 1 all the way through hole 18 because they know that their plan is bulletproof, and that just leaves them to execute. They don't have to worry about their plan. They have supreme confidence in it, and so it frees them up to just focus on execution. Again, this is another one where once you put it in your bag and you learn this, it's yours forever, right? And so with the mental side, again, once you learn the system and you implement it, it's yours forever. You don't have to buy it again and again like you do with clubs. The same is true with strategic planning. Once you have it, it's yours forever. Now, we all know that on the short game side, skills can diminish if you don't practice them, but you have the knowledge and understanding of the various techniques. And so if you go on vacation for a month and you don't practice any, you can come back and pick up right where you were and sharpen those skills because now you have the knowledge on how to do it. All right, so I've done some research on what competitive golfers are spending annually, and we're almost done. So this is our wrap up. Equipment, $2,000 to $5,000 a year. That's clubs, balls, gloves, all equipment. Green fees and range time, $3,000 to $8,000. Swing lessons, $2,000 to $5,000, or you could say coaching. Travel and tournaments, $5,000 to $15,000. So if you're on the very low end of that, you might say, "Man, I'm only spending $5,000." Okay, well, you're spending $5,000 a year on golf. Or if you're on the high end, you might say 25,000 plus per year on golf. So this is what I'm asking you. I'm asking you to spend a fraction of that on the highest ROI elements, those elements that will give you the greatest reduction in scoring and improve your enjoyment of the game. And so this investment is an investment in the mental game, the short game expertise, and the strategic course management. Only a few $1,000s compared to what we just discussed, and the return on investment is huge, and they're yours forever. Once you learn them, you don't have to learn them again. So if you look at what you stand to gain in terms of the shot reduction, the enjoyment, mental game alone, science, the research shows it's 4 to 6 shots per round are lost. Strategic course management, again, the planning part we talked about, 4 to 6 shots per round. That's without even consideration of the short game, which is another 4 to 6. So if you combine all that, you can see where you could easily get to like 8 to 18 shots per round, depending on where you are. Everybody's a little bit unique. And so this is huge ROI for a fraction of what you're spending on golf already. You can spend and get massive, massive benefit to you that lasts a lifetime. I coach competitive golfers. I've coached and observed over 650 rounds. I can tell you the golfer with the biggest distance advantage doesn't always win. The golfer with the best swing doesn't always win. The golfer who wins, you might ask? The one with mental resilience, short game mastery, and a smart strategy. That's the transformation I deliver. With just 6 sessions, whether it's you or your child, we can completely transform their performance. Not their swing, their scoring, their enjoyment, their confidence. We program your performance identity and your nervous system for elite performance just like a professional. And here's the thing, the majority of this is virtual. You don't have to be in Texas. You need a computer or a phone and an hour a week or every other week. That's it. Do you have that? Then you have time. We'll build your mental game system, map out your strategic course plan, and give you the framework to own these skills for life. I offer a complimentary discovery session to make sure it's a good fit. There's no risk for you, no risk for your child. Head to eliteperformancejuice.com to book that session. Upon booking, you'll receive a link to take our 5-minute 4 Dimensions performance assessment. The link is in your description. Book your discovery session today. Let's transform your game together.